capitalism is fine. It's democracy that plays on human nature, on human greed and human envy. That is the problem, right? Because whenever you have disparities in wealth, you're always going to have people that resent those that are more successful, that have more stuff. And then you're going to have a politician who can prey on that.
Yeah, because that's what I was leaning towards. If there's no like mass education in the public all of a sudden, that it's going to take hard times for them to accept something like a gold standard over free stuff.
Yeah, I mean, most people don't want freedom. They don't want individual liberty and limited government. They just want to have stuff, and that's the mentality. And of course, it sounds great. If I don't have to be dependent on myself, if I don't have to be self-reliant, if the government is just going to provide me with the things that I need and the things that I want, well, that's the road I want to take. That's a lot easier than to have to do it myself. So, it's unfortunate that the nature, the character of Americans has been transformed so much over the generations, because once upon a time, Americans were self-reliant and rugged. Americans didn't want the government to give them anything. I mean, they wanted to do it themselves. The only thing they wanted the government to do was protect what they built from people who would try to take it. Now it's the government who's trying to take what you've built and give it to somebody else. So the government is the big threat right now, not other individuals.
That's what I really wanted to ask you. So it seems like individualism, capitalism, free markets, it naturally tends to like degrade into collectivism, socialism, because, good times create weak men. Free markets creates like income disparities, wealth gaps, and then those weak men get resentful against the rich, and then they hire politicians who want to take money from the rich, and we end up back into like collectivism. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, it's not really capitalism that does that. It's democracy, right? Because the capitalism is great, right? Capitalism is making everybody better off. The rich are getting richer, sure, but the middle class is getting richer. The poor are getting richer. In fact, without capitalism, there really is no middle class. I mean, the middle class was a creature of capitalism. Capitalism created the middle class. Before capitalism, there was just the very rich and everybody else was broke, right? So the whole concept of that middle class was born out of capitalism. And so capitalism is fine. It's democracy that plays on human nature, on human greed and human envy. That is the problem, right? Because whenever you have disparities in wealth, you're always going to have people that resent those that are more successful, that have more stuff. And then you're going to have a politician who can prey on that, right? Hey, that's not fair. Why should this guy have so much? He's not that much better than you. He's just greedier. He just doesn't care about people. He doesn't care about the environment. He's an evil, mean person who's exploiting his workers. That's why he's richer than you. And we're going to level this out. We're going to tax him. And then we're going to take some of that money and give it to you so you can have more stuff, because it's not fair that he has so much. And this is what happens, in democracy. And so that's the flaw. And I think the framers of the U.S. Constitution understood this. And so they created America as a republic. That was their experiment. We could have been a monarchy and we could have made George Washington king, but instead we opted for a republic with a president, with a Congress, and we had a constitution to limit power. But the idea was to not have a democracy, like the failed democracies of ancient Greece, right? Which, our founding fathers, had studied and, understood the problems with democracy. But they thought, okay, we can handle democracy. We'll keep it in check with this Republican form of government. But they left too many holes in it, and, over time, they take advantage of these loopholes, and gradually the constitutional protections, wither away, and democracy creeps in and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And so, we're very close to the end of this, right? Because it really is socialism at this point. Look at Joe Biden's, his new executive order on the unemployment benefits. There's these extended unemployment benefits where they're really lucrative and where a lot of people actually get more money not working than what they would earn if they returned to work. Their employers are like, hey, I need you to come back. And they don't want to come back because it's a pay cut. But in theory, if they don't come back, they're not unemployed anymore because they're turning down a job offer. And so then they're not really supposed to get the unemployment benefits. And so Biden says, oh, no, we want to change this. This is not right because people should be allowed to turn down jobs and continue to collect unemployment because we shouldn't make people choose between a job and possibly getting sick. And the minute you adopt that mentality, well, then you tell people they don't have to work. They could just opt for money from the government, that they shouldn't have to be forced to have a job because jobs are risky by their very nature. I mean, whenever you have a job, you could get sick, you could get into a car accident. I mean, you could get bored, all kinds of things, could happen at your job that you don't like. And so, but we are now setting a situation where you have a right to stuff, right? You have a right to health care. You have a right to housing. You have a right to education. You have a right to a certain quality of life. You have a right to a living wage, whether you earn it or not, right? Everybody has a right to all these things, these basic human rights. And of course, none of this is a right. You don't have a right to anything that belongs to somebody else, right? You have your rights are negative, right? You have a right to be left alone. So you have a right to be free, but you don't have a right to take stuff from other people. And the only way you can have education is if somebody gives it to you. Well, you don't have a right to force somebody to give you anything. That's theft. Now, what these politicians are really talking about are privileges. They want to say, well, we all have special privileges. We have the privilege of health care and the privilege of housing, but all right, well, at whose expense? If you have a privileged class in America, who's funding it? Who is on the hook to provide these privileges, right? And basically what the media is saying today is, well, there's some group of, wealthy, 1%ers, whoever these guys are, and it's their responsibility to provide you with all this stuff. Right. They're basically the servants and we're the masters. We're the new nobility and they're the working class. Right. We just get to have lives of leisure and it's paid for by, the toil of this small, minority of wealthy people.
I hope you enjoyed this clip from our interview with Peter Schiff. Peter is an economist, financial commentator, millionaire stockbroker, and someone that I really like to take into account his opinions along with people with other differing economic opinions. You can check out the full interview we did together with the link below, where we went over a ton of cool stuff like inflation, hyperinflation, the Fed, the money printer, the dollar crash, capitalism, socialism, democracy, the gold standard, the creature from Jekyll Island, and a ton more. Really great conversation that we have been getting a lot of great feedback on, which you can check out with the link below or on the screen right now. You can subscribe for more dangerous conversations for dangerous minds just like yourselves with the red button below. It's free. You can dislike, unsubscribe, leave us your best hate comments whenever you want, so you might as well do it because you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Check out the other interviews we've done on the screen right now. Stay dangerous out there, and we will see you guys in the next one.